Hey everyone, Reese here, and welcome to Ctrl-alt-rees, and a very special Christmas episode. And what I mean by very special is very lazy, because this is a clip show of stuff that I've already recorded over the course of the year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So a big challenge that you come up against as a smaller YouTube creator is how to get your face out there and how to get your content out there in front of an audience. And there are an awful lot of very small channels that work very hard on their videos and on their content, and just can't get it out in front of the right people, and would be massively successful if only people knew that they existed. And the one thing that I think that I would say to those smaller guys is collaborate with bigger people, and that's particularly what I've done in the past year, and it's how I've kind of managed to grow my channel from nothing to just over 2,000 subscribers in the past 13 months. And the person that I've obviously collaborated with the most, if you're familiar with my channel, is Neil from RMC. So that first started back in March, when Neil started doing a daily live stream for his Discord community, back when the lockdown was first announced here in the UK, and a lot of people were sort of furloughed from work and stuck at home, didn't really have much else to do. Really amazing thing for him to do for the community, and helped us to take our mind off things and to sort of keep us entertained. I think he went above and beyond, and his community paid him back in spades by submitting loads and loads of really good content for those live streams. And so I thought I would submit a tour of my little game room / cave here, and it was featured on the live stream on the 3rd of April alongside Slope's game room and a few other people. And that video hasn't been seen outside of that live stream, and it hasn't been seen sort of in its entirety and in its sort of uncut form. And it's a really cool, just quick look around all of the stuff I had set up at the time. It took me 4 or 5 attempts just to try and sort of cram it all in. I think the time limit was 90 seconds, just to sort of give everything a very quick mention and show all of the machines that I had set up at the time, and some other stuff that I had on display. So I'm going to start with that video. So this is my RMC cave tour video, as first seen on the RMC Extra Caverns live stream on the 3rd of April 2020. Hello fellow cave dwellers, my name is Reese, and this is the 2.3 by 2.9 metre room where I make my YouTube videos and work on my projects, and this is my 90-second tour. Let's go. So first up I have my RM window box 486DX4100, which is mainly used for playing Doom, hence the Doom shrine I have there. The Atari Mega ST, which is my music making machine. That was the professional version of the Atari ST. There's the IBM 5150, which was the original DOS PC from 1981. My PVM there, which is currently hooked up to my Jaguar, and have the N64 there as well, that's the Japanese version. My original Mark 1 Atari ST from 1985, that was before they had the internal floppy drive. Just some MSX stuff there, Sony HB101 MSX computer. Have my collection of Famicom games and accessories, the Nintendo Famicom being the original version of the NES, of course. Have my BBC Micro there. Then I have my shelves with my Atari collection, so I've got the 5200, the VCS Heavy 6er there from 1977, a couple of original Pong machines, the 2800, which is the Japanese version of the 2600, just my Jaguar games, the Atari 800 there, the Touch Me handheld game from 1978, boxed 7800 and an Atari XE game system. And finally, just onto these back shelves, I have my Mr. Driller collection there, some Dreamcast stuff, a processor card from a PDP-11 mini computer, some boxed software for the PC and the Atari ST, and of course the Acorn Electron and BBC. And my Auric Atmos, which is a genuine prop that was used on the IT Crowd on Channel 4, and I won that in a charity auction a few years ago. So there we go, thanks for joining me for the tour, and I'll hopefully see you around. So after we kind of got into the flow of things with the live streams, people started submitting their favourite games alphabetically, starting at A and working all the way through to Z, of course. So I thought I would tackle M and Mr. Driller, because I have quite a nice collection of Mr. Driller games and other merchandise, so I put together a very quick video on that. Yet again, there is a longer version of that video on my channel, which I'll link to in the usual places. But yeah, yet again, another video that hasn't been seen outside of those live streams. So I'm going to show it to you now. Hello cave dwellers, and welcome to my cave. If we haven't met before, my name's Reese, and for today's RMC live stream brought to you by the letter M, I thought I'd show you my Mr. Driller collection. Mr. Driller was an arcade game released by Japanese company Namco in 1999. Now you might wonder if 99 qualifies as retro, but the game concept has actually been around a lot longer than that. In fact, Mr. Driller started life as Dig Dug 3. Indeed, the main protagonist of the game, Susumu Hori, is the son of Taizo Hori, the main character from Dig Dug. If you're not familiar with it, the gameplay of the Mr. Driller games involves digging out coloured blocks which are somehow taking over the city while being sure to keep topped up on oxygen. Depending on which version of the game you play, there are various characters with different abilities. There are also a couple of sequels, Mr. Driller 2 and Mr. Driller G, which introduce some new gameplay elements like multiplayer. So here I have the official strategy guides for the 3 main arcade games. These were, of course, released in Japan, in Japanese. With my rudimentary Japanese language skills, I can't actually really read them. But they do have some nice pictures, and they also come with some nice stickers as well, which is always a good bonus. I also have this promotional tote bag. It says not for sale on the back. I'm not really sure what it was launched to promote, but it's quite nice. I have these badges from the launch of Drill Land on the GameCube. I don't actually own that game because it was quite hard to come by, but I am on the lookout for a copy. Incidentally, Drill Land is coming out on Steam on PC on June the 25th this year, so very much looking forward to that. I have this Mr. Driller phone charm. I'm not sure if that was from a vending machine or what, but that's a pretty cool little thing. And I have this phone card. If you remember payphones that take cards as payment, this is a brand new sealed Japanese phone card with Mr. Driller on it. On to the actual games, and I think we'll start at the beginning with the original arcade game. And it just so happens that I have the arcade PCB right here. The immediately obvious thing about this PCB is probably these Sony chips. And the reason for those is because this Namco System 12 arcade hardware is actually based on the original Sony PlayStation. The CPU is overclocked, so it's 50% faster than the PlayStation, and it has a slightly better sound chip, but other than that, it's identical. And this board conforms to the Jammer standard, which means I can use my Supergun to get it hooked up to my TV. And to make life even easier, the board actually supports the JVS, which is Jammer Video standard, so it has a VGA video connector and RCA audio connectors. The Supergun uses a Neo Geo AES joystick and hooks up to a standard 4-pin Molex power connector, so I'm using a Pico PSU here with an ATX breakout board. I also have the Game Boy Color version here from the year 2000. This is actually one of my favourite versions of the game. It's cut down, but the core gameplay is there, and it has really cute low-res pixel art and a really nice Game Boy chiptune soundtrack. Well worth seeking out. After that came the Bandai WonderSwan version. I don't actually own a WonderSwan yet, but I suppose the box looks pretty. This one was a lot of fun once I finally got it working. It's the PC version from 2000, but due to the way languages work in Windows 9X, the installer is only compatible with the Japanese version of Windows. I didn't really want to have to reinstall Windows on my lovely NetVista just to play this game, so I found a way of installing it on my Windows 10 PC by installing the Japanese language pack and then manually copying the files over. This version is really nice actually, with high resolution graphics and Direct3D support. Back onto the handhelds, here's Mr. Driller A for the Game Boy Advance from 2002. This version was unique to the GBA and has a whole cool animated story at the beginning. It's entirely in Japanese, of course. The second and final Mr. Driller game for the GBA was Mr. Driller 2 in 2004 and was essentially the same as the other Mr. Driller 2 ports from that time. Mr. Driller Drill Spirits came along on the DS in 2004. Like a lot of DS games, it didn't really make amazing use of the second screen or the touch functionality, but it's a really good port, so I can't complain. Finally, I have the PlayStation releases of the original Mr. Driller and Mr. Driller G. I don't have a Japanese or chipped PlayStation, so I can't show you these running, but as the hardware was essentially identical to the arcade release, so was the gameplay and the graphics. They were released a year after their arcade counterparts. As with the majority of my game collection, I keep all of this in one of my cubby holes. Now these cubby holes measure 35 by 33 by 33 centimetres, which gives us approximately 38,115 cubic centimetres. As you've probably spotted, I have a few Mr. Driller plushies knocking around as well. I used him as my avatar for the longest time, so I always have them hanging around in the background of my videos as a bit of an homage to the earlier days of my social media empire. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed my nomination for M, and I'm looking forward to what everyone else has to show us. Back to Neil in the studio. So one of the real kind of benefits and appeals of submitting these shorter videos for other people's channels, in my opinion, is the creative freedom that it brings. I mean, the kind of the main thrust of my channel here is that I cover the stuff that I'm fiddling with and stuff that I'm working on. And just being given a theme and being said, make a video on this theme, a very short video, put it together within a day or so. It's a lot of fun, kind of thinking about it and deciding what I want to cover and how I'm going to sort of tackle it and try and do it in a creative way. And also, the kind of tone of the videos is a bit more light-hearted and a bit more fun than maybe my more sort of serious technical stuff. So along came July 2020, and by this point the live streams were monthly. People were kind of getting back to work, and we were kind of getting used to the new way of working that's kind of come about this year. And the theme of game music came up. And so it's something that I really wanted to cover, and I was kind of getting into MIDI devices and that kind of stuff at the time. Obviously, I've done a few videos on DOS gaming and MIDI and that kind of thing. And so I thought I would pick one of my favourite games of all time again. And so, yeah, let's check out the video, and I think it speaks for itself. Hello Cave Dwellers, Reese here again from ctrl-alt-rees, and today I want to talk to you about one of my favourite games of all time. Doom, obviously. The music for Doom and Doom 2 was composed by Robert "Bobby" Prince, who wasn't actually a full-time employee of id Software but a contractor who'd previously worked with them on Commander Keen and Wolfenstein 3D. Incidentally, he was actually a practicing lawyer and had also been a platoon leader in Vietnam. Using id Software's conference room as a base and a list of metal influences provided to him on a compilation tape by John Romero that included the likes of AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Metallica, Judas Priest and Alice in Chains, Prince composed the soundtrack on a Roland Sound Canvas SC55, just like this one. The sound canvas has a MIDI input on the back which plugs into the sound card via the joystick port using a standard adapter cable. Then it's just a case of firing up the Doom setup program, going to select music card and choosing general MIDI on port 330. This streams the raw MIDI data out through the joystick port, which is then played by the sound canvas in real time. I consider this to be the way the game was meant to be heard, but to be honest I prefer my Sound Blaster 16, as it's how I remember it from my childhood. So thanks for watching, back to Neil in the studio. A bit of a sneaky twist there, but you weren't expecting that. Anyway, in July of this year, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 was released, and so for the RMC livestream, Neil decided on the subject of flight simulators. And so I thought, well, there was only one logical choice for that. Hi everybody, Reese here, and you might know me from a certain Beehive simulation game that's almost single-handedly brought about the downfall of the RMC Discord server, but today I'm here to talk to you about a completely different game. And with a brand new Microsoft Flight Simulator on the horizon, what better game to talk about than Cybermorph on the Atari Jaguar. A launch title on the Atari Jaguar back in 1993. It's a 3D space combat game with some nice chunky polygons. So as far as my personal story with this game goes, as a kid we used to have ST format because I had an Atari ST. Towards the end of the ST's lifetime, ST format were really pimping out the Jaguar as being the console that was going to save Atari. We all know how well that ended. So at the time there was nothing I wanted more than a Jaguar. Obviously my parents were much more sensible and wouldn't let me have one. We did get a Mega Drive in the end, which I think was probably the better choice in hindsight. But I did buy a Jag as a poor student in the very early 2000s when they were dirt cheap and boxed brand new games were selling for about £5 each. And that's when I discovered Cybermorph. And to be honest, people say it's a bad game, but I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's slightly let down by the Jaguar's controllers, like a lot of games on the system. Could probably benefit from analog sticks. But apart from that, it's a good blast to float around and shoot at stuff and well done. Get bugged by a big green Sinead O'Connor head. So thank you very much for watching. Back to Neil in the studio. That brings us to August, and one of my favourite games of all time, actually. And the computer that I had set up at the time kind of really struggled to run it, but I decided to roll with it anyway. It was all done in very, very sort of short notice. And the theme for this one was open world games. So this was also the first video that I did, the first monthly live stream video that I did from my new setup here. So yeah, I think it was one of the first times that people had actually got to see it all, in fact. So yeah, a bit more of a straightforward video, but another one that I think I was very pleased with, and one that people enjoyed. So here it is in its whole uncut, unedited, uncommentated entirety. Hi everyone, Reese here, and my nomination for my open world game is the original Grand Theft Auto. Released on the PC in 1997, Grand Theft Auto was developed by Dundee-based developer DMA Design, who'd previously brought us Lemmings in 1991, and of course rebranded as Rockstar North in 2002. The game was originally conceived as a top-down racer called Race and Chase, but was expanded into the game we now know and love after early testing revealed that people had a lot more fun running down pedestrians and running from cops than racing. GTA features 3 cities based on New York, Miami and San Francisco, and while it did have a main storyline, it's best known for the sheer amount of freedom given to the player to complete various side missions handed out by the local gangs. The game went on to spawn 6 sequels, shifting more than 280 million units with an estimated gross revenue of over $9 billion, making it the 4th highest selling video game series of all time, after Mario, Pokemon and Tetris. Finally, I just wanted to point out that this building on the front of the box is actually Trump Tower in New York City. And on the subject of Grand Theft Auto, I recently got my hands on a Orchid Righteous 3D, which was the first Voodoo card, and of course there is a 3DFX optimised version of Grand Theft Auto on the CD, and I've been playing that on my new Pentium 233 MMX computer that I did my December video all about, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's great. I love the way it runs on there. It's really smooth, and it's probably something that I'm going to cover in a Voodoo video at some point early next year. Actually, the sort of the Voodoo cards and the history of those is something that I'd quite like to cover, particularly maybe more from a kind of very early DOS gaming kind of angle. And so to the last of my RMC livestream submissions for this year, and that was in September, and the theme for September was puzzle games. And I had a lot of fun rediscovering this game, and actually after I put this video together, my wife and I actually played our way through it again. It turns out it was one of her favourite games from back in the day as well. So the really cool thing about these collaborations and working on stuff for other people is that you get to sort of maybe explore things and discover things that you perhaps wouldn't have done otherwise, and as well as the sort of improved coverage, visibility and sort of publicity for the channel, it's also a great way just to try out something completely different and fun. So this one was yet another one that was quite quickly put together. I was quite busy with work at the time, but yeah, just a great opportunity to discover another favourite game from my childhood. Pushover, a fantastic puzzle game and an example of in-game advertising dating back to 1992. The plot revolves around Colin Curley, the Quavers Crisps mascot at the time, incidentally voiced by Lenny Henry in the TV adverts, who loses his Quavers down an anthill and enlists the help of GI ants to help him. Gameplay revolves around dominoes, some of which have special abilities like exploding, bridging gaps or splitting into two, and arranging them in such a way that the 3-striped domino always falls last. The game features 9 worlds of 11 levels, each with their own distinct artwork and music. Pushover was released on the Amiga, Atari ST, MS-DOS and SNES, although the SNES version removed the Quavers branding. The whole thing may have been a ploy to convince us to buy cheesy snacks, but it was an excellent puzzle game in its own right. And finally, something a little bit different, and this time it was a collaboration with a smaller channel called Retro Respawn. And he'd put the call out on Twitter for Atari Jaguar fans, and all 4 of us responded. But no, it was it seemed like a really interesting subject, and it was a great opportunity to provide a bit of content for a fellow small channel and sort of help him out as well. Checked out his videos, and I like what he's doing. I think he's a great channel. Obviously, I'll put the links in the usual places for you to check out. I'd highly recommend you go and have a look at his stuff. So yeah, I will present here my video submission for that particular video, and I hope you enjoy. Think of the Atari Jaguar and you'll probably be picturing 3D games like Cybermorph, Iron Soldier, Alien vs Predator, or maybe the excellent ports of Wolfenstein 3D and Doom. But one thing that's often overlooked is that the Jaguar was also a very capable 2D system, with powerful hardware scrolling and sprite scaling capabilities. These capabilities, when coupled with the Jag's powerful sound chip, made for a great 2D gaming experience, and were put to great use with some really top-notch platformers on the system, like Flashback, Bubsy, Rayman, and the game I want to showcase today, Zool 2. The sequel to 1992's multi-platform hit Zool, the Jaguar version of Zool 2 was released in 1994, a year after its initial Amiga release. Zool 2 is a colourful and fast-paced platformer with speed to rival Sonic the Hedgehog in places, and big detailed sprites and graphics superior to what we saw in the Amiga and DOS versions. Unfortunately, with the Sony PlayStation, Nintendo 64 and Sega Saturn hitting the market, bringing with them an exciting new wave of 3D games, mid-90s gamers were growing tired of platformers, and Zool 2 wasn't a big seller on the Jag, shifting around 11,000 copies in total globally. Personally, I think Zool 2 is a bit of a hidden gem on the Jaguar, which is sadly overlooked in favour of its DOS and Amiga counterparts, but well worth seeking out for fans of the franchise and fans of platformers in general. So I'm sure you'll agree, a bit of an unusual choice of game there, but I had everything set up for the Jaguar, and it's a game that I'd recently discovered and really, really liked it, and it's something that people probably don't even realise was even released on the Jag, so great to kind of get the word out there and tell people to go and check it out. So yeah, some really great collaboration videos there. I also did some smaller bits and bobs for people. I did some voiceover work this year, which is kind of crazy. I was the voice of Richard Darling, one of the co-founders of Codemasters, in a really excellent RMC video all about the history of CD-ROM gaming. I'll put a link to that down in the description so you can check that out. I also did a bit of voice acting work for DJ Slopes for Slopes Game Room. Really, really great guy to work with. I really love his channel. So it was a really great opportunity. That video hasn't been publicly released yet, but I am the voice of someone who was screwed over by Peter Molyneux. A very entertaining video. So as soon as that link does go public, it's currently available to his patrons. I will put that in the relevant places. But yeah, otherwise go and subscribe to his channel and keep an eye out for that one. I also did bits of video with a guy called Naoki, Naoki's Retro Corner. His channel's really great, you know, a lot more technical stuff than me, and he's done a lot of crazy stuff for the RMC live streams as well. He's a good friend of mine, and I highly urge you to go and check him out as well. So finally, just on the subject of collaborations, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank a few people who've submitted things to my channel. I really, really hope I haven't missed anyone here. I have been over everything pretty thoroughly over the past day or so, but I'm sure I'll inevitably miss someone out, and I really do apologise if I do. But I have a list here. And so I had a bit of voice acting work in my DOS MIDI video from Johnny Blanchard from Re-Enthused. I definitely recommend you go and check out his channel. You know, as with all of these, they're all really great people who've been a lot of fun to work with. John from Amigos Retro Gaming and the This Week in Retro podcast was the voice of Al Alcorn from Atari, talking about hippies and dope smoking and that kind of stuff in my Atari video music video. So, you know, big thanks to John for that. I could appreciate that people might not necessarily want to be associated with that sort of thing. So it was good of him to step up to the plate and be my token American in that video. So, yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the collaboration stuff for this year. I hope you've enjoyed checking out those videos that obviously haven't been seen on this channel up until this point. Just like to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and hope you're all safe and well. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for supporting my channel this year, for subscribing, for helping me to grow. I've got so much cool stuff coming in the very near future and for 2021 and beyond. So yes, stay safe and well, like and subscribe, say hi down in the comments, and that's it. Bye.